Okay, so literally 3 hours ago, these came in. Almost 3 hours ago. These brand new Terraria comic, which is like the first official Terraria comic in like 10 years or something. I know there was another one, but anyway. So, start off, the first thing I noticed, the art style. It actually looks really good. Honestly. Like the first panel of the book, you see this, it's an interesting landscape. It's not something you'd see in any normal, like, painting or something. It's not even like, yeah, it's really interesting. It represents the game's art style really well, though. Somehow turns that pixel dream world into, like, yeah, line art, line drawings. So, it's all vector shaded. Most of it looks like, yeah, like all the characters are. The backgrounds, though, have a little more detail. It looks nice. The characters, one of the first thing I noticed is most of the first volume, none of these characters you can actually find in the game. I don't know why, but what's his name, Luke? I thought he was the arms dealer at first. I don't know why, but no, genuinely have no clue who any of these people are. I also noticed the rabbit's name, Alma, isn't actually in the game either. But otherwise, they do a really good job of representing this game for what it is. Like that one scene where they just chopped some trees and put together a house, like, from noon to sunset, they put together a whole cabin, and it's like, dang, I would do that in Terraria, right? That's kind of weird, but it's cool. The enemies, it's... the one thing I want to say is the pacing in this book. I looked up these guys, 50 Amp Productions, online. They haven't had any projects before, so this is probably their first major project. And I can tell because it's not masterful or anything. I've seen, like, I don't read that much, but of all the mangas I've read and comics, this is paced really weirdly. I mean, this guy Vale's having this emotional moment. Literally all his friends died, and there's one panel of him crying. The rest of them, they show the back of his head, which is pretty cool. And then the next page is just like, alright, let's get home. And then this slime appears out of nowhere, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not used to comics, but I don't know, that stuck out to me. I just probably am not appreciating the comics for what they really should be at the moment. These are my first impressions, so like, yeah, that was kind of a tangent about something that doesn't matter that much. But they do a really good job of representing the game, as I was saying. Like, whoa, it's the groom. They're like, okay, it's a blood moon, which, okay, I'll get to that later. There's a groom here. I'm like, cool. And then he finds like shoe spikes or something. I'm like, nice. I can't tell if they were shoe spikes or climbing claws, actually. But they could have been either. And then the last page in the first issue, it just shows all the pre-hard mode bosses. Besides Deerclops, which is interesting, and the Brain of Cthulhu. This is a corruption world, apparently. No Brain of Cthulhu, or Deerclops, I guess. I'm trying to think if there are any other pre-hard mode bosses I'm missing. Doesn't seem like it. Maybe Dark Mage, you could count that, but no, there's no Dark Mage here. It's just the major ones: King Slime, Queen Bee, Eye of Cthulhu, Skeletron, Eater of Worlds, and yeah, the Wall of Flesh, which, interesting, is more like a pillar of flesh. They didn't draw like a whole wall and put eyes and mouths on it. It's just like a pillar. So yeah, that's cool. Second issue, though. Everybody's dead, and it's pretty cool. Has a nice page about the Eye of Cthulhu, and how the blood zombies kind of like, it's weird. I saw this one scene where the blood zombie just like drips his blood onto the farmer, and he just like, it's like he's transforming into a zombie as the dripplers surround him. It's really interesting. And there's a corrupt chicken, which there's a blue chicken in the game. The Stardew Valley crossover, but yeah, there's a corrupt chicken now. Hopefully I can show a few panels of this as background footage during the video. I think that'll be fine. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. Literally the very end, yeah, quite a big cliffhanger at the end. I'm assuming it's a poison dart trap, but Vale finds a life crystal. I immediately keep thinking, I think about Terraria a lot, and one thing I always think about is how blood moons only happen after you get your first life crystal, and I'm assuming the guide has seen his. Okay, obviously it's not going to be perfectly accurate to the to the game. Whatever, you know what I'm talking about, if you know. But yeah, Redigit died apparently. I thought that was a really funny reference. I would know that hat anywhere, because it's the green hat, which is actually supposed to be Luigi's hat or something. So I guess a Mario crossover, actually. Yeah, pretty interesting. Anyway, it's really nice. The story, I'm hoping this story goes somewhere more interesting right now, because it seems really bland. The story doesn't seem to represent the progression of the game as much as the game itself, obviously. The pacing of the game is basically every time you do something, you beat a boss, you collect a new item, the game becomes harder. The world becomes more corrupted in a way. I'm not seeing that represented here. It's just some blood moon randomly happened, and enemies started appearing everywhere. Really interesting. So I'm hoping by the end of the issue, we start seeing more examples of how the story of the game kind of plays out. Sorry, the first volume, did I say that? Yeah, I don't remember how many volumes there are going to be, but really neat. So basically a recap. I thought the art style is really nice. It works really well. The characters work right now. Obviously, there haven't been that many characters fleshed out. It looks like, I mean, the guide and Vale have been pretty fleshed out. Looks like the nurse is coming in the next one. The rabbit is just a rabbit. That's pretty cool. The pacing, like I said, this is the first project of 50 Amp Productions. I've read a few comics, and I was much more interested in like the first 2 issues of something like, yeah. So the pacing's really interesting. Like I said, I'm not a comic critic. This is just like this is like the first real comic I've been invested in like a couple years, actually. So, but it's really grabbed me as somebody who has played Terraria for at least 6 years. This is pretty insane. And yeah, it feels disconnected from the game in that the characters don't really fit with my experience. But that's personal again. But I really do like how this is turning out. So first impressions are I like it, and if you haven't ordered them, I'd say just wait till beginning of next year when they ship out the whole volume 1 in like small novella. I'd say just buy that rather than waiting for the rest of them to ship. So we'll see how long this goes for. And like I said, it's the first official Terraria comic in like I don't know how long. So I'm hoping this one's here to stay. I've noticed a lot of Terraria merchandise doesn't really represent the game at all, besides like those one-off figurines or posters. But yeah, I definitely recommend it when it comes out in like the full novella format, all 4 issues combined. So yeah, nice.